Whether your business, college, or organization is looking for e-learning, serious games, or training simulations, Designing Digitally will take your training needs to the next level. Every solution Designing Digitally provides is custom tailored to the client's specific needs and helps achieve organizational objectives through the use of innovative online learning experiences. Designing Digitally specializes in creating educational, engaging, and entertaining learning experiences that will stick with your learners and increase retention. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to TLDcast Thursday. It's an open forum day, just like it has been the last 2 days. Hey, yes, I know you need a bigger picture, but first, before we get a bigger picture, we just have to stay on this bigger screen share right here because I have to tell you about the Training, Learning, and Development Conference coming up January 28th and 29th. If you are new to TLDcast, then this might be your first time hearing about it. So definitely get registered. All the info you need is at tldc19.com. You can get registered there and you can find out all there is to know about it. You could also ask any of the lovely folks that are already in the chat because they've been there, they've done that, and they're coming back. So it's all going to be good. Find out what their favorite parts are and tell all your friends about it. It's super fun and you're going to learn a lot, and we're going to do everything we can to help you get better at the work of training, learning, and development. So just be prepared. You're going to be amazed at how your career will take off. And with that, I'll also tell you about our TLD chat group in Slack. We utilize Slack to have a 24/7 conversation. And that's where you can ask questions. We post job listings. We try to connect folks with different projects and connect folks with each other. I know all of us work in different industries, different verticals, and the work of training, learning, and development can be very, very, very different from one industry to the next. And depending upon what level you're at in the business, whether you're a CLO, whether this is your first job right out of college, maybe you're an instructional designer or an e-learning developer, maybe you come from the tech side and you do a lot of media developments. It doesn't matter. We can help and we can direct you to others who do the exact same things you do. And you can learn and put your career into hyperdrive, super overdrive, and get to where you want to be. So I would encourage you all to do that. And if there aren't any new people here, I just rambled on and on and on and on for no reason. But those of you that are here, take a look at, click that people link down there and see who's logged in. And if you see anybody you don't know, give them a little @ sign and a little hello, howdy, how you doing? And make them feel at home today as we go through an open forum. I know open forums can be a little bit chaotic sometimes, and so people that are new to TLDcast might scratch their head and go, not too sure if this is worth my time. But rest assured that the serendipitous learning opportunities of an open forum are plentiful. You just have to stick around and kind of be a part of it, stay engaged, and make it happen. So a lot of what makes open forums successful is you engaging and you being present and participating in the conversation as we go along. So without any further ado, let me introduce to you today's guest, the Open Forum. I guess I need a special theme song for that, but I don't think I have one. Anyways, the podcast. Yes, there you go. And it's all good. So I actually have a topic for today in the TLD cast. Oh, no guitar in the room. You guys are great. I'm trying to eyeball the chat over there and while I'm talking and trying not to get too distracted. But Yeah, it's hard to do. Anyways, so I was thinking about something the other day, something that I do a lot. I do a lot of interesting things from an industry perspective to try to learn about where things are going. And you got to be quicker on the draw, Kara. If you're going to grab the good faces, you got to be ready. You got to be paying attention. Don't worry, we got 53 minutes, 50, left. So don't worry, plenty more memes to happen. So anyways, so one of the things I do to look at the work that gets done when people tell me, what's the most important pressing thing for businesses, and they want me to know like what are the trends and what are people doing in the industry. I talk to a lot of people, and so I'm able to ask a lot of questions on a regular basis. And I know a lot of vendors and product, developers in our industry. But one of the easiest things to do is to go look at LinkedIn and do a search for whatever level of professional you're looking for, and look at what they put on their LinkedIn profile for their jobs, because what they deem as important is probably what the business was asking them to do, and where their focus was for their time there. So, for example, you could look for chief learning officer. That's always my favorite, because there are very few of them that actually have that title at some of the large enterprise Fortune 500s, global 2000 companies. And go down to their most recent job or even their previous jobs if they've been a CLO at multiple companies, and look at what they feel like were their greatest accomplishments. And that's going to draw a very, very clear picture for you as to what the important work is that needs to get done, and where you might want to be focusing your time. So it's one little sort of practical little nugget of knowledge, a little trick, a little tip that I wanted to share today to kind of kick things off. And we can dive a lot deeper into it, because I have a particular one. And when I grab these, I always cut and paste them and save them in an Evernote folder. And so I have a whole bunch of them. And it's one of those things that I always just forget that, oh yeah, hey, this might be valuable for others to find information about the industry this way. So I have one in particular that I found recently that I thought summed up really well what it is that leadership wants from us as an L&D industry, what we should be doing, what we should be focused on. Sometimes we get a little bit too, I think, a little bit too generic in our we're all about performance now. We're instructional designers and we're moving to performance professionals. Yay. Or we're not, training anymore. We're talent development and all of this generic stuff. But I think to be a little bit more practical, we need to see what are those projects, what are those areas of focus that different leaders in our industry are currently focusing on. And so I'm going to continue with this meme unless somebody in the chat says, nope, we don't need to be doing this. Seems like that would be automatable to some extent too. Avi, were you is that a comment directed at me about finding this stuff on LinkedIn, or did I miss somebody else's comment? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. My guess is it could absolutely be automated. Sure. I don't know how to automate LinkedIn, but yeah, I suppose you could, just find all that info. Anyway, so of things that this particular CLO was held accountable for, and I've changed the company name, and basically accountable for all of XYZ companies' learning and development activities, including executive development, leadership development, first line management skills, technical training, sales training, and compliance training. Managed a globally distributed team and a budget. So look at the order that they put that in. Yeah, for this particular person's job. Let's just start at the very top. Executive development is important. Executive development, leadership development, and first line management skills. All three of those are kind of, I think, fall under the same category of management leadership. And could, because that even is a focus down at smaller companies too, right? All of the dollars, I think if you look at the research too, so I haven't made any connections with like Josh Berson's research that he does, or I4CP, the research that they do. But I'm guessing, and ATD as well, I'm guessing that their research basically says the same thing. The majority of the dollars that are spent, and I remember this being the case a ways back, most of the money that's spent from L&D departments is on those management leadership topics. And yet we don't talk about that very much. Like, right? Like we talk a lot about the sales training and the technical training and the compliance training and all of the things that are a few rungs down the ladder. And how can we create e-learning around all this stuff? Or how do we do performance support and all of that kind of stuff? But a lot of the money is spent around executive development, leadership development, first line management skills, all that kind of stuff. Mike Simmons adds, good thing management and leadership are so well regarded in most orgs. Right? Yeah, or not. Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle. And I think the reason why so many dollars are put into those categories is because there is a lot of backlash from the rank and file, and they don't feel like they're being managed well, or, you know, on and on and on. Everybody's always got something to say about somebody else and their job. You know, but it's something that we're, as training and learning and development professionals, we're often asked to tackle this very large, very sort of nebulous sort of topic of executive development. What does that mean? Let's just start there. Like, have any of you ever done executive development? Like, you're asked to be the training manager, and then they say, go train the CEO, go train the CMO, go train the CHRO, you know, what does executive development look like? And now that's interesting, Marco. So for those of you that don't know Marco Ficini, he is our go-to VR guy, and our resident UK attendee. I don't know if Joe Cook's here or not. Bethany was here the other day, but boy, we have a lot of UK folks. But Marco's our resident VR expert, and I don't know if I've ever heard of VR being spent for leadership and management stuff. Marco, I would be really curious to know how virtual reality is being used to educate or develop corporate leaders. Uh-oh, Mike's in a bit of a mood this morning. What does that mean? Did I miss it? You guys are so chatty today. I'm gonna have to pull one of you out and put you in the video so you'll stop chatting so much. If you guys, if I can't get you to focus, get your brains in and focus a little bit, just a little bit. The soft skills. But how do you do soft skills in VR? Empathy, emotion, diversity, inclusivity, et cetera, et cetera. All right, we're going to have to start seeing some examples of those, Marco, because I've heard about them, but I don't know. I think somebody from our community might at some point ask, do we have any data to support the efficacy of virtual reality in empathy training? Oh, my video's grainy. Dang it. Sorry about that, guys. I checked my bandwidth yesterday, and I've got like 90 download and over 10 megabits upload. So it all should be fine. I know the kids might be streaming Netflix though. I know 2 of them stepped out, so they're not here sucking on the bandwidth, but I heard my son's alarm go off when I was filling my last coffee. So he might be up, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, here's what I should do is I should take my laptop off the Wi-Fi because I'm hardwired. Normally, even if I've got the Wi-Fi on, it defaults to the hardwire, but let's just turn Wi-Fi off and see if that helps. Maybe it is my Wi-Fi. It totally froze for me at one point. Maybe higher level issue regarding your ISP will cope. No, you can't just cope. You got to have a very clear screenshot. You have to have it. Because that's today. That's today's. For those of you who weren't here early, I'll let somebody else share the contest. But you miss out on all the little early conversational nuggets if you drop in late thinking, oh, those first 5 minutes are going to be so boring because Brent just talks about the TLDC stuff. Nope. We do some fun stuff too. So it's always good to be there. So, all right. So executive development leadership. So we've got virtual reality. Marco says is good for training in that space. Anybody else? Or did I miss it? Did I miss what people were saying in the chat? Has anybody else done executive development? I know I've had a few people ask me if I know of any off-the-shelf courses for leadership management. Yeah, so, okay, excellent question, Mike, and fantastic segue. Thank you very much. So the interesting thing about this particular profile on LinkedIn was after listing these sort of general areas of focus, he goes into talking about some details about it. So one of the areas of focus that he was asked to change. Oh, I gave it away. It's a he already. Maybe I should just say they. He was, helping to create and define a learning culture. We talk about that all the time. And I think there are a lot of leaders in training, learning, and development that are asked to do this, or they want to. They come in saying what we really need to do, and they've convinced somebody somewhere to support them in the helping to adjust and shift the organization to a learning organization or to a learning culture. So redefined leadership philosophy and revamped leadership development curriculum and processes. How many of you have had to do that? And what does that look like? Right? Shifting from face-to-face training to internally developed agile micro-learning sites, delivering new content to 10,000 leaders simultaneously. Built 3 key leadership capabilities critical for the company's near-term business success. Expanded use of experts as teachers, leveraging skills and experience of leaders and incorporating them into learning delivery process. Enhanced business performance by building critical skills, including technical underwriting, consultative selling, digital management, product knowledge, cybersecurity, and fact-based decision-making. Whew, that's a lot of courses. Does your person have a beard? What is this, like 20 questions? Experts as teachers sounds like bypassing L&D. Well, I think but isn't that what we do? I don't know. I don't know if that's necessary. I think if we facilitate that, right? I think really what he's talking about is equipping subject matter experts with the ability to be effective instructors, effective sharers of their knowledge and skills within the organization. And I think bypassing L&D, I think that's, in some instances, I've always thought of that as my job. Like I've always encouraged software developers to put me out of a job. And I know that sounds kind of silly, but I know it's never going to happen because it's practically impossible to create a piece of software that is perfectly intuitive for every single person that's going to be using that software, because that's not marketably viable. Is that like the way I would phrase that? I don't know. But I mean, obviously, whenever you're trying to build something and market it, you're trying to create it to be as many things to as many people as you can in order to make as much money as you can and to be able to fund the creation of that tool. So you make it very generic across the board so that it's close enough to what everybody thinks is intuitive, and then everything else has to have a training manual go along with it. Right? So the closer they get to making fully intuitive, super easy software to make, the less we're needed to create training to teach people how to use the software. Same with hardware. If hardware devices were easier to use, manuals wouldn't be necessary. No training would be necessary if each device or if each piece of software was built very specifically for the task and was exceptionally intuitive, or maybe was smart enough to adjust itself on the fly based on what you're asking it to do. That would be interesting. But anyways, as far as bypassing L&D, I've said this before to you guys. A lot of times I think the actual lowest common denominator of what we do is we connect people that have the knowledge with the people that need the knowledge. And sometimes that just means literally connecting them. Somebody comes to you with a training need. You maybe haven't created that course yet. You maybe don't have an offering available along those lines, but you know who the subject matter expert is. You can introduce the one to the other, make that connection, and boom, learning occurs and performance improves because now you've made a connection that wasn't there before. Do you get any credit for that? Did you have to create an e-learning course in your favorite authoring tool to make that performance improvement happen? No. And will anybody ever, know or give you credit for just making that introduction? No, probably not, unless you're tracking it and you're saying, I introduced, 35 people to subject matter experts that they didn't know before, and that equated to this amount of money. I mean, I suppose you could do that, but I don't know of anybody that does it. It's just what we do when we're in a position to know all of the right people who know all of the right things, and somebody who needs to know something comes to us and asks for help, and we connect them with one of those people and they're able to get the information they need. That's going around L&D. That's going around us to a certain extent. Because more often than not, after I've done that, I never see those people again. Once they know who to go to for all the right answers, they don't come to the training manager ever again to say, hey, could you guys have some training on, the XYZ machine? And it's like, no, we haven't gotten to that piece of equipment yet, but I do know all the engineers and I do know exactly the right person who would be really good at telling you how to do whatever it is that you need to do. Make that connection, and then you never see those people again because now they know where to go get the information they need. So it's an interesting point that I've probably run down the rabbit hole too far because I see conversations going in other directions now. So, but Kristen says, I've been toying a lot with the idea of setting up frameworks for my org to help people debrief after meetings. I think frameworks are outstanding. Absolutely. Anything we can do to create systems instead of events is huge, There, I even did a real slow one for you, Kara. I hope you got that. um, if still grainy video. Sorry. I don't know. It's pretty clear on my end. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe the recording won't be so grainy. I don't understand why the video is so bad. I'm gonna blame it on Crowdcast. Put it into Photoshop and just run a filter on it. It'll be all right. Nobody will care. Sam, it can't be my upload speed because I'm at 10 gigabytes or 10 megabits per second. And that's up. Down is 90. So I don't know what's happened, but no, 10 can't be pretty slow. Maybe I should reboot the router right now. Okay, later. All right, I'll do it later. All right, so maybe today was a bad day to do the contest. Sorry, guys. With the grainy video and all. Rats. Hey, so tech question. How often do you reboot your router? Perfect, thank you. When it stops working. And Kim says, you can reboot your router? Laura says, when I trip over the cord. Wow, weekly. All right. See, I'm still using an old Airport Extreme from Apple, and they don't support those anymore. So I'm trying to squeeze every last bit of usage out of it as I can. But my guess is I need to upgrade to a non-Apple router product. So I don't know. Yes, and there is the answer of the day. When it becomes sentient, yes. Oh my gosh, yes, Craig, you're absolutely right. It's about 9:30, and that means it's time for us to give a little bit of shout out to the folks we love over at Designing Digitally. I was really looking forward to having Andrew Hughes on our show yesterday, but man, he's the busiest guy I know and works harder than most people I know. And he's with the family and young kids and all that. He is one amazing dude, and to still be creative when he's mostly running on fumes, it blows my mind every single day. He is my hero, but we'll have him on again. And he's a big supporter of TLDC and the work we do here. And so I am very, very happy to have them as a sponsor. Whether your business, college, or organization is looking for e-learning, serious games, or training simulations, Designing Digitally will take your training needs to the next level. Every solution Designing Digitally provides is custom tailored to the client's specific needs and helps achieve organizational objectives through the use of innovative online learning experiences. Designing Digitally specializes in creating educational, engaging, and entertaining learning experiences that will stick with your learners and increase retention. Also, don't forget about the Training, Learning, and Development Conference, January 28th and 29th. It's going to be fantastic. You do not want to be left out just following the hashtag and wondering, why couldn't I be there in Phoenix with everybody? So be sure to get registered right away, ASAP. The sooner we know you're coming, the sooner we can support you and work with you on all of the things that you want to get out of the event. One thing that I need to add, I don't know if we've put it up on the website yet or not, but Trish Ewell, who is our keynote speaker for TLDC 16. A lot of you don't even know we did this in 2016. We did it in San Diego. And Trish did about a week, maybe about 10 days before the event. She did a fantastic online virtual session preparing folks for how to get the most out of the event. And she walked everybody through it. And she was there at the event and actually led some conversation lunchtime tables around, just checking in with those folks who were in that session. And then at the end, she did a really great wrap up to help everybody take in everything that they've learned, reflect on it, and figure out how to help them get the most out of it after the conference as well. Because I think in a lot of cases with events, you go to the event, you have a great time. There's a lot of chaos, a lot of noise, a lot of stuff going on. And you're having a great time and you're talking to a whole bunch of people. And then all of a sudden you find yourself on the plane home, totally exhausted, and you can't remember anything. It's just like, wait, wasn't I at an event? Or you're looking at all the flyers and all the papers that you stuffed in your bag from all the vendors that you picked up. And, it's just overwhelming. And then you get back into the office and then it's back to the grind, back to the same old, same old. And so Trish is a really, really good at helping you work through what are the goals you want, helping you set those up ahead of time, targeting those, checking in with you while you're at the event to see if you've reached those goals, see if you need anything else. And we try to check in with everybody during the general session portion of the event when we're all together in the same room. And we want to help everybody get better at what their goal is and what they're trying to do. You don't have to have a goal. It's perfectly okay to go to an event and just be like, I'm just going to kind of soak it all in and just kind of hang out and just enjoy the moment. That's a cool way to go through events too. But if you've got a very specific focus and there's something you're trying to do, then we can help you get that. We can help you figure all that stuff out. So, and of course we do it every day here on TLD Cast, but sometimes it's more fun to do it face to face. So, all right. Back to our regularly scheduled conversation on understanding what it is we need to be doing as professionals and getting some really strange, odd insights, not odd, but some interesting insights utilizing tools like LinkedIn and looking at people's profiles, looking at the people that are doing the work that someday we would like to do. Look at the things that they highlight in their LinkedIn profile and start to get an idea of what companies really find valuable, what these leaders find as valuable. So we're looking at some different elements of profiles that have been listed on LinkedIn of CLOs, Chief Learning Officers, and understanding what it is that they do. And yes, it's an open forum today, but I have taken executive control and said, this is what we're going to talk about. Because I always forget to. I always think about this when I'm doing it. I'm like, wow, I should talk about this during TLD Cast. And then I don't. So today is one of those days where we're definitely going to talk about. So we talked about the executive development, leadership development, first line management skills. And then, and I said before, remember the order that somebody puts these items in, really, it says a lot about the value that they place on these different activities in the work that we do. And so coming up in third place, or the last three in the list, three to the end, I don't know, is technical training, sales training, and compliance training. And I'd be curious too, by the way, if you guys bulk your training in these particular sections. I thought it was interesting how it went executive development, leadership development, first line management skills, technical training, sales training, and compliance training. I'm running out of fingers. So there are 6 elements that this particular leader took on And then my guess is this is how he sorted out the work that he had to do every day and what he sent down to his team to help him build and to create for this particular company. And so I wonder if this sounds, does this ring true for y'all? Is this similar to how you view the people that you support and the work that needs to get done, or that you think of bulking the training work in your area? I'm going to drop them into the chat just so everybody can see them, and then you guys can all cut and paste as you see fit. So it goes executive dev, leadership dev, first line management skills, then technical training and sales training and compliance training. There we go. So my first question, I think, would be, is there anything missing? Like, is there any particular type of training that you guys do that you don't think falls into any of these categories? What's up, J-Rock? Welcome back. We've missed you too. We're talking about the work that we do and getting a better understanding of it by looking on LinkedIn and stalking executive profiles. Marco says it is, but the challenge is biggest proportion of the L&D budget is spent on compliance. Okay. Ooh, and customer service training is missing. Okay. Would customer service training fall under technical training though? Perhaps, like, maybe that would be a department that would get some first line management training and some technical training, as in how to use the software, how to use the phone system, that kind of stuff. And I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just positing ideas. Yes, onboarding new hires. That is missed too. He did not talk about that. Let me actually look down at some of the details. So he built a new learning and development function. So I read off a couple of the bulleted items for the learning culture, but he also developed the L&D function. And so maybe this will answer some of that stuff. So reviewed current state and identified inefficiencies, misalignment, and lack of effectiveness of 27 independent L&D organizations. So this is a massive company with 27 independent L&D orgs, and he had to basically rejigger the whole process and get them all aligned and figure out what they need to do. He benchmarked performance against other companies in the industry, defined high-performing learning organization targets, oversaw the consolidation of all L&D staff and budgets, refinement of technology support, and establishment of governance processes, modernized the L&D function by exploring and incorporating adaptive learning, artificial intelligence, mobile learning, gamification, social learning networks, and the curation of internally developed and open-sourced content. Generated significant increases in L&D impact and staff engagement at a lower cost. See you, Kara. Thanks for hanging out. Sorry I couldn't get you any non-grainy screenshots. Kristen says, yeah, most things I'm thinking about that are missing from there would be soft skills. But maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe he incorporates the soft skill stuff into that executive development and the leadership development. Maybe there's a lot of soft skills in that, or maybe there's soft skills embedded in the sales training, or the first line management skills. Maybe part of that is soft skills. and it's just not defined that way. So this is the interesting thing about going through this exercise, right? It's understanding the words people use to define themselves and define the work that they do. I think is really important and really critical in all of us being able to come together and and help each other figure out what it is that we need to do and what words we need to use. And I don't have any answers to any of this. This is just an exercise that the like I was saying earlier that I go through just to learn the way other people are describing the work that they do. Because and actually, I'll be perfectly honest and just say I do a horrible job of explaining it myself and explaining the work that I do to others. So I first started doing this because I wanted to just kind of figure out how to better word my own uh, profile and my own accomplishments and whatnot. But then I started realizing, wow, there's a large, broad, sort of range of how people express the work that they do as training and learning and development professionals on their LinkedIn profiles. And so it just got me very curious. So, anyways, I'm following along the conversation. Sometimes technical training equals the technical stuff folks need for a role. Yeah, and that's what I was kind of thinking too. This is from Mike Simmons in the chat for those of you that are listening, i.e., the technical skills necessary for the role, which may include soft skills. I don't know. Yep. How many people do you include in your sample when exploring this? It's totally random, Mike. Yeah, when I do this, I don't. It normally. I think I don't remember if you were in the chat when I was explaining kind of how I do it. I know. What? Brent doing something at random? Yes, it's the serendipitous learning. I feel like it's huge, but I do a CLO search, Chief Learning Officer search on LinkedIn, and I just see what pops up. Every time I do the search, a different thing pops up every time, and I'll click on the profile and I'll just read through it. And if something strikes me as that one being a particularly interesting one, I'll often just do a cut and paste and pop it into Evernote and save it for a later date, just to kind of see what people are doing. So I don't really have a sample size, but I think just doing it every so often when you're eating lunch or something like that. I don't know. I've probably looked at 50 to 100 at this point, I would say. I'm like I said, I mostly just find it curious because you do start to see trends and in what directions they go. So yeah, what patterns have you identified? Well, and that's kind of why I was going through this list here, because I think even as of 5 years ago, I don't think you would have seen somebody putting in their LinkedIn profile that they successfully modernized the L&D function by exploring and incorporating adaptive learning, artificial intelligence, mobile learning, gamification, social learning networks, and the curation of internally developed and open sourced content. Right? I mean, that one bullet right there jumped out to me like crazy, because you wouldn't have seen that even 5 years ago. Yeah, I suppose it could just be that too. So Kristen, I don't keep them attached to, I don't do a screenshot and I don't ever know who the people are. I genericize the whole thing. I take the bullet points and I just do a cut and paste of just the text. I don't really care who the person is. And I genericize the thing. I think at most I just make a note that it was somebody that described themselves as a chief learning officer, and maybe I'm leaving, maybe by making it anonymous like that, I'm leaving out a whole bunch of critical data. But all I want to know is that it's a CLO, and they've listed out a bunch of bullets, and this is how they describe their job. That's all I really want to know. But yeah, my LinkedIn, my Evernote folders are full of all sorts of stuff. And now that you mention it, Kristen, maybe, maybe I should lock that down or something. That's funny. Well, so that's the question I was actually trying to answer, Mike. So my assumption has been that the way a CLO defines their success and the work that they've done at a company is how they would write about it in their LinkedIn profile. So how does a CLO measure their success? This particular one only mentions, what did I say? 27 independent learning and development organizations. And that he identified inefficiencies, misalignments, and lack of effectiveness, and he turned that around. There isn't really a whole lot of data in this particular profile. I have seen some that do say with actual dollar amounts. I managed a $5 million a year annual training budget, and we were able to do XYZ and train XYZ number of employees and onboard blah blah blah, and all of that kind of stuff. There are people out there that do list that, and so that's the other thing. Like, how many of you in the chat manage a budget? Or even if somebody asked you, hey, put together a budget for the year, you're the new manager, we've never had a training budget before, what would you do? Would you look at a $5 million budget and think, oh my gosh, I can't ask for that? That's a lot of money. That's actually a small training budget for a lot of companies. In a lot of companies, you couldn't do much with that except have different departments. It's so it's an interesting way to buy a kick. Thanks, Mike. Mike is in a mood today. Yeah, there is a lot of politics involved. That's why I do this. That's why I thought this would be a good conversation today. I knew everybody would have something to add to this type of an exercise. Because I'm not saying that this is a great profile. I'm not saying that this is indicative of the perfect chief learning officer job. I'm not passing any sort of judgment at all. The only thing I'm saying is that I find it very interesting, and I make a lot of connections in my own mind by just reading other people's profiles in this industry and the work that they do, and seeing what they see as important, whether they actually did this stuff or not. Maybe they know a lot of buzzwords and they just wanted to add a lot of buzzwords in on their LinkedIn profile to get hit up in searches for executive searches and stuff like that. Yeah, that's always possible too. But like I said, I try not to pass judgment, but to just look and use it as a point of reference. So that's been my goal for this activity, and I hope this has been interesting for you guys as well. And I hope you'll all take a look yourselves and see what you find. And if nothing else, it might help us get better at defining the words that we use in our industry. Being able to take a look at what we're already saying. I know Sam is working on this or thinking about working on it, an index of terminology. And, what are the words that we use? I don't think I followed up on the tweet that he did, but, and, oh, it's happening. Oh, great. Yeah, I was being kind of snarky on Twitter with you, but I don't think I was really being clear. But I really do think we should start with the business schools. How are they teaching the business people to understand the role of training and L&D within the corporation? So are the MBA programs or any of the textbooks out there, do they address any of this stuff? I think that might be an interesting place to start, because we don't want to force people to change. We just want to understand what they're doing so that we can communicate better with them. At least that would be my approach. I could be totally wrong. But that's right. That's why I wrote that in the tweet. I think starting with the way the business sees what we do and what terms they use and how they talk about us is a great place to start. Then go to HR and figure out how they refer to us. Because remember, we're the ones trying to get the jobs. And if we're not doing the right searches for what they're searching for, and if we can't communicate with the recruiters and HR with the type of work that needs to get done, if there's misalignment there, then that causes a whole nother cascading process. It's hard for them to find good employees because they can't find the right match for what they're thinking they want and what we are thinking we can do for them. Right? We can help fix this communication a little bit better, I think, by first level setting on the business and the way HR and recruiters term things and what they're talking about and what they're looking for. And then as an industry, we can go about making change and impacting that. I think, and I'm perfectly open and to being wrong at that approach. Okay, so Craig says from the chat, actually, this reminds me of something that I think about a lot. If you were working in L&D in a big company, would you rather your CLO be someone with a strong L&D background or someone who is great at managing a large department or function? I believe that is the $1 million question. And in my experience, I've run across more CLOs that are more business focused and more adept at running large departments and functioning the political climate within the large enterprise. And, they can talk the talk of the executives. Maybe they've already been an executive level manager of operations or HR, or they're moving up the ranks and this is just one of the stops along the way. Hey, be a CLO for a year before we make you CHRO, because you need to know how that department works. Right. Once you understand the big picture of how large companies work and how when they identify, we talk a lot about high performing organizations, hypos. Internal organizations have high performing hypees, high performing employees, or ones that they identify as on the high performing employee track. And so they put them in all of the different roles within the company before they then make them the CEO or whatever, put them on the executive board or whatnot. So if you find yourself in the position of just almost being ready to be promoted into the management slot and somebody else gets it that's completely out of the blue from another department, it's just because they're going through the rotation. You have to manage marketing, you have to manage sales, you have to manage operations, you have to manage this, you have to manage that, and then you get to be CEO when the time is right. But they introduce all of the high-performing employees to all of the different roles and all the different functions in the company so that when they do sit in that CEO seat, they're properly groomed for understanding all of the business functions within the company and how they all work and all that kind of stuff. So my guess is more often than not, the CLO, especially at that level, I guess a training manager, you would probably want somebody that is more training specific maybe even at the director level. But once you get to the CLO level, it's more often than not somebody that's got an MBA, management, stuff like that. So lots of good stuff in the chat to this question. I've rambled on enough. Let me see if I can go back here. Oh, sorry. Key takeaway, Kristen's focus on facilitation, and I totally missed that. Sorry, Kristen. So what is the overall, it looks like as I'm scrolling through this, did everybody want business acumen and a manager of a large department, or did you want an L&D pro? Thanks, Craig. Now I'm down to 2 minutes. Sorry. Flying solo, it's hard to read the chat and everything. Normally I can kind of glance over at the chat when I've got the guest talking, and I can stay pretty dialed in, but I'm missing everything. People want to survive, live, belong, make an impact, improve. Plus 1 million for business acumen. Yes. So what does that mean for L&D folk that want to move up the chain? What that means is get an MBA. If you're thinking about getting a PhD, if you're thinking about going back and getting a master's degree, get an MBA instead. That's my tip of the day at the 2-minute mark. It's much more flexible. Even if you get it online, just to say that you have an MBA, you don't have to go to a fancy bazillion-dollar school, but you can learn a lot and be seen in the eyes of the business as much more credible with just having that MBA stuff behind your name. So, yeah, and getting experience talking to the business too, just caring about the business, just as much as we want the business to care about L&D. Right? We want, if a leader rolls in and is just focused on being a great manager and a great department head and can do all the management stuff, we want them to at least have a respect for the L&D function and for instructional design and all of those things, and to respect it enough to, as I think Kristen put it, to shield us from the politics, to give us space to run block for us, so that we can get the work done for them. Great managers are fantastic at doing that. I've had good ones that were fantastic at shielding me from the craziness, and I've had others that not so much. So it's tough. It's a tough crew, but anyways, great conversation today. I think I hope you all got a lot out of it. Just being able to talk through this stuff out loud has been very, very good for me, and to hear all of your feedback has been fantastic as well. So I'm going to let you all go. I know you got meetings, so get out there today, train somebody. Don't forget, learn something new. Hit up LinkedIn and learn something new about your peers and colleagues. I don't know why this dang thing. And there we go. Thanks everybody for hanging out today. We will talk to you later.
Aha!
Whether your business, college, or organization is looking for e-learning, serious games, or training simulations, Designing Digitally will take your training needs to the next level. Every solution Designing Digitally provides is custom tailored to the client's specific needs and helps achieve organizational objectives through the use of innovative online learning experiences. Designing Digitally specializes in creating educational, engaging, and entertaining learning experiences that will stick with your learners and increase retention.